What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're just out in the garage with the 72V BBSHD. So it's using a Flipski VESC controller. Alright, so you've got the VESC controller going. And also, I've got the Cycle Analyst display going. Okay? So this is a new setup. Alright, so I'm using the Cycle Analyst 3 with the VESC controller. So this is kind of what I've been doing lately and working on. So first of all, it's been so long since I messed around with this bike. And the other day when I was messing around with the VESC app on my phone, like something got reset or something happened. And then all of my VESC settings, like the motor settings and everything, like got reset in VESC. And then, so I'm just gonna go through the steps again to do the motor setup for the BBSHD mid-drive within the VESC app. But what I'm going to do this time is first, we're going to take the chain off of the chainring. When you've got a mid-drive and it's doing the motor detection, it's going to start spinning the chainring, right? That's the part of the motor that spins, is this chainring. It makes your chain pull the bike, right? But when you're doing the motor setup, I think you want to take the chain off of the chainring so that it's not like actually doing the wheel and like, because when you've got a mid-drive going, like, the motor is also connected to your bike's drivetrain and the wheel and everything. So that can kind of confuse the motor detection. So what we're going to do here is we're going to loosen my do-it-yourself chain tensioner so that I can get the chain out of it. Let's see, is this thing going to go on here? Yeah. Let's see if we can't loosen this thing. Let's see here. What are we doing? What are we doing? Tighten up. That is on there good. Holy shit. Man, that thing is on there so good. That is nuts. Get the chain off of it. Hopefully. Let's see. There we go. All right. So now that that is clear, and we have the chain out of the way. So now that's out of the way, we can go do the motor setup. All right. So let's go into our VESC app. And then we'll go to setup motors. Well, so go to setup motors. So we're going to do this all from the beginning. Right, we're going to start all over. So it's asking load default parameters. Would you like to restore this VESC and all the VESCs on the CAN bus to default settings? So I'm going to hit yes. Right, and you only want to do this one time when you're very sure that you want to reset everything. So we're going to start from scratch. Okay, so this resets all the settings within VESC. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit cancel. We're going to go back and go over here to motor config and then go to voltage. So the battery voltage cutoff end, I'm going to set to 50. So that's when my battery is completely dead. And then when it gets to 68, we're going to start the cutoff. All right, so we've got battery voltage cutoff start 68. Battery voltage cutoff end 50. Okay, so I'm going to write those to save it. And then I'm going to go to advanced, general advanced. Alright, so then on the minimum input voltage, we're going to say 50. So that's when the battery is completely dead. Maximum input voltage, I'm going to put to 85. So that's when the battery is fully charged, is 84.5. So I'll put it just a little bit more than that. And then for the minimum current, I usually do like 3 amps. All right. So then once we do that, let's see here, general current. So the absolute maximum current on the Flipski 75-100 Pro V2, I think is 250. So I'm gonna set that. Okay. So now that now the main thing is we had to set the battery voltage cutoff start and end, and then the minimum input voltage and the maximum input voltage. Because if you don't have that matching your battery, then the setup motors is going to get some kind of like a fault code. All right, so let's go to setup motors. All right, So this is where we're going to set up. Now we're going to hit no, right? No to the low default parameters because we just entered a bunch of things we want to keep. Okay, so then we're going to do generic. I'm going to do override. I'm going to uncheck this BMS limit stuff because I'm not doing any of the BMS limiting within VESC. So I'm going to hit next. So this is the BBSHD is a large outrunner. I'm going to hit override and change the motor poles to 8. That's how many magnets are on the rotor inside of the motor. Okay, so there's 8 magnets or 8 motor poles. And then from my experience, I just leave all this other stuff at the defaults. I don't know if there's some way that you can tweak that and optimize it in some way. Leave a comment and let me know if you have some better settings for the BBSHD. But this seemed like whatever. Just hit next. I'm gonna hit, so it says motor selection warning. Hit yes. So then for the battery capacity, I'm gonna hit 20 amp hours, and then for the battery current max, I'll just do like 55 amps or something. So he'll hit next. So it's direct, it's the motor pulley, I've got a 42 tooth chainring on here, right? And then the wheel pulley, or no, wait, my motor pulley is 46 and my wheel pulley is 42. Okay? And then so for the wheel diameter, when you've got a mid-drive, right? So you can calculate, you can approximate your speed if you're using a single speed BBSHD where the gearing is static, right? So we've got 46 teeth up here and then 42 teeth on the rear sprocket. There's only one gear, so that never changes. We're not shifting at all. So there is a way that we can set up the wheel diameter and the gear ratios in the VESC app so that when we have the throttle and the motor is actually going, it will show the speed correctly, right? But the thing about mid-drives is that when you let off the throttle and then this thing stops spinning, the bike can still be rolling. And so when you let off of the throttle on the mid-drive, when you're coasting, VESC can't really calculate the speed, right? Because the motor isn't spinning, and that's how VESC calculates the speed. So there is a way that we can get the speed working correctly in the VESC app. And so what we do is this has gearing inside of here, right? So as long as we enter these 46 teeth and 42 teeth right here, so the gearing inside of here is, I think it's 21.9 to 1 is the internal gear ratio. So if we do 1 divided by 21.9, that gives us 0.045, whatever, right? And then so if we take the wheel diameter of a 29-inch wheel, right? So it says 622 millimeters, right? So if we multiply this by 622, it says 28.4. So we can try using 28.4 as our thing here. So I'm not too concerned about the speed in the VESC app anymore because I've got the Cycle Analyst on here. So then here is where you can set up the temperature sensor, but I'm actually going to disable it because I'm going to use the temperature sensor in my Cycle Analyst instead of the temperature sensor in VESC. So I'm disabling the motor temperature sensor within VESC. Okay, so now we're going to run detection. And so it should spin up the motor. And detect it. So you can kind of hear it spinning. So it's actually spinning like backwards. And we're going to have to invert the motor direction after this is done to get it going the right way. Okay, so then once this finishes processing, Okay, so we can click inverted, and we can hit forward, and then it'll be going the right way, and then we can hit finish, right? So now we have to go set up our input. That's our throttle, since we completely redid the VESC settings and reset everything. We gotta go in here and do this again. So we just hit this VESC, hit next, and then it's an ADC input, conventional e-bike throttles. Hit next. Okay, so now we can see the throttle voltage that's coming from my throttle. And in this case, it's actually my cycle. The throttle connects to the Cycle Analyst, and then the Cycle Analyst has a throttle out signal that connects to the Flipski's throttle in signal, right? So it's like when I press the throttle, the signal goes to the Cycle Analyst, and then the Cycle Analyst can like change it a little bit and do stuff with it, but then the Cycle Analyst sends that throttle output signal to the Flipski that makes it actually go. So how it works is like from the Flipski's point of view, it doesn't even know there's a Cycle Analyst. It just knows that there's just one throttle signal that's coming to it that's telling it to go, right? So I just wanted to explain that the throttle is going through the Cycle Analyst to the Flipski, but we can still hit the throttle here, and we can, we can see. Oops, my throttle is actually spinning around here. I need to tighten that. So it seems like my script is still going, the freewheeling script, but we can hit the throttle all the way, and it gets that maximum voltage, and then I release the throttle halfway, and then applying right. Okay. Next. Right configuration. Next. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do is I've just got my script is like going, and it just keeps going here. So I gotta figure out how do we stop this. And I'm just gonna pull the power. Okay. So we got that sorted out. Right, so I just wanted to do the motor setup where I took the chain off the chainring, because sometimes if you do the motor setup with the chain on the chainring and there's any like jerkiness or like funkiness happening with your drivetrain, I think it can kind of affect the motor detection, and it has all kinds of like really funny effects that are hard to diagnose, right? Like when you do the motor detection in any kind of, whether it's the phase runner or it's VESC or Sabaton, you got to make sure that there's nothing funny happening with your mid-drive. So I would just take the chain off of there, right? So now we can tighten back up my chain tensioner. We're gonna use these guys. So we got the 15, and we got this guy tightening. Okay, so that should be good. Now we can carry on. All right, so I'm gonna plug the Flipski back in. I don't know why I have an XT90 anti-spark that is sparking for some reason. Like, why does that happen? Let me know in the comments. All right, so we're gonna connect back to the Flipski now that's on. All right, so here's the part where we're gonna do the BBSHD settings. Okay, so gonna go to motor config, and let's just go to, so general, it's set to FOC, that's what we want. So then under FOC, it's set to Hall sensors, and then if we go to, so I'm gonna go to field weakening, and then we're gonna turn on the field weakening. I'm gonna set it to like 44, and we're just going to write 44 field weakening. And then if we go to advanced, I'm going to go to, we're going to change the MTPA algorithm mode to IQ target and write that. And then, so let's see what happens here. Let's hit the throttle a little bit. So now that I have the chain connected on here, when I hit the throttle, alright guys, so my GoPro just overheated and I had to put a new battery in it. But what we did is we changed this MTPA algorithm mode to IQ target. Alright. So we've turned on MTPA algorithm mode, and so now we've got this observer type. So let's hit the throttle and see. Oh man. All right. So let's go to general current. So what do we have here? Motor current max 68, absolute maximum current. So I'm gonna change this absolute maximum current. I think it's 250 for the flip ski. I don't know. But if your absolute maximum current is too low and there's like a spike of current, sometimes it gives you a fault. So that's why I increased that to the maximum absolute current that the flip ski can do. So battery current 55. All right, so what else we got? So some of this stuff, like you can't really totally test it when the bike is on the stand and you're not riding the bike. Like some of this stuff you have to actually get on the bike and try and like ride it and feel how it's going. But I think this should be good enough to the point where we can take it out. Okay, so I think that's it for messing around with this in the garage. I just wanted to do the motor setup. I get questions from people sometimes about like, how do you set up the BBSHD in VESC? So this is kind of like, this is how I usually do it. And then once we go out riding around, we'll continue to tweak things a little bit here. We might increase the motor current and do some other things, like play around with the field weakening a little bit. And we'll probably have to change this observer type and some other things. All my settings got reset and I lost them all. So we're kind of like figuring it out again. But so let's get on the bike, let's get outside, and then let's start playing around with this. I'll see you guys out there. All right guys, we're starting up the GoPros, starting up the screen recording. Connecting in the VESC app. Is that disconnect. What's happening here? Connect. Man, so I'm hoping this works. So disconnect, connect. So I think there's some update that happened in VESC, or like VESC thinks that there's a new firmware. VESC thinks there's a new firmware available now, or something. Man, I hope this doesn't get messed up and screw up my motor detection. That's kind of like what happened the other day, when all of my VESC settings got reset. So let's see here. Can I save my settings here? So backup configs. Let's say backup configurations. Okay. So I think when we click backup configs, that is what saves our configuration. And then if something happens, hopefully we should be able to restore that. Okay. So we're gonna keep my phone going in my pocket. Hopefully. And then we're gonna ride the bike around, hopefully. Man, it is a hot day out, bubbies. Alright, we're just taking it easy. Taking it very easy. Seems like it's working so far. Alright. We are moving, bubbies. And I do think that doing that motor setup again made it feel smoother in some way. So I would say if you have the BBSHD, you're gonna always want to take the chain off of the chainring when you do that motor setup. Sometimes I get lazy and I try doing the motor setup and I leave the chainring on there, and like every time, without fail, like something funny happens. So I've learned my lesson. So motor current is 68.39. Let's just increase it a little bit to like 80. All right. Let's see how this goes. So I remember from before, what I had to do was I would go into FOC, and then it was the advanced, and so this observer type. So which one do we have going here? So it's FOC observer, MX Lemming, Lambda. Let's try this. Go with MX Lemming. I remember experimenting with this a little bit previously. As soon as you turn on the MTPA algorithm mode, then this FOC observer type and some other parameters become important, and you kind of have to tweak them. So let's see. I remember in the past I messed around with that observer type and it helped out. Some of them just had kind of like a little bit of a jerkiness to them, or a roughness. And you can adjust the observer gain under the FOC settings. I think it's advanced. Like some of the observers rely on the observer gain setting, and then there's this MX Lemming one. I don't think that it uses the observer gain. It's not as important. And I think I thought the MX Lemming one is the one that I was having more success with, because I just turned it on to MX Lemming. Yeah, I think this is the one that I was using before. I tried using the default observers, but I could never quite get the observer gain and the flux linkage parameters like tweaked correctly. And then I think when I turned it on to MX Lemming, you just don't even have to mess with the observer gain, and it just kind of like started working for me. So it seems like I kind of fixed that jerkiness that was happening. Let's see here. Do a little bit of hard acceleration. Yeah, that feels a lot better. If anybody has any tips on adjusting the observer gain and which FOC observer type to use, and like adjusting the flux linkage and stuff,
I would appreciate if you could leave a comment, because I don't really understand that, and it's important. It seems like it's working a lot better now. Sun went behind the cloud. Feels kind of good. It's a hot day, bubbies. I don't know what's going on. It's almost like 90. It's like summer came back in the middle of September. I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. I am feeling blessed. I'm thankful that it's warm out. Because we get to go on this e-bike ride on a beautiful sunny day. We're going this way. Alright, so we'll continue to mess around with the VESC settings for the BBSHD as we go along here if needed. But I was just doing that because they inadvertently got reset and cleared the other day. And I was just trying to figure them out again so that I can ride my bike again. The main focus lately on this bike is the Cycle Analyst. And I do want to do a video about hooking up the Cycle Analyst to any e-bike controller and how you can do that. Not necessarily just hooking Cycle Analyst up to the VESC and the Flipski. So I'd like to make kind of like a general purpose video that goes over that so that everybody can take advantage of it. But really, I kind of had to like figure it out first and do it all and figure out how it works and all of the little things you might run into along the way. And I'm still going through the process of doing that. But it works good. The main thing is like you have a screen that you can see outside in the sun that shows you everything that you need to know. Right? That was kind of the main reason I did it, just for the display. The Cycle Analyst is a lot more than just a display. Alright guys, so now that I have recovered from choking on the bug, we can continue talking about Cycle Analyst. So we've got BBSHD working with VESC again, so let's talk about Cycle Analyst a little bit. So I'm going to make the official video on this, but it's going to take some work. But for now, we can just talk about it, right? So Cycle Analyst, it's a display, but it's not just a passive display. It's almost like an e-bike computer too, where you hook up your throttle to the Cycle Analyst, and you hook up all of the sensors and the inputs, like your pedal assist, your torque sensor, or your e-brake cutoffs, all of those things hook up to the Cycle Analyst. And then the Cycle Analyst can do various things with those signals, right? So it's a display. It's a passive display where it shows you all that stuff on your display, right? But then it can also do things with your throttle signal, right? So when you hook your throttle up to the Cycle Analyst, you can actually have the Cycle Analyst remap the throttle voltage, right? And you can have the Cycle Analyst actually like control the throttle ramping and how your throttle engages the power. And the Cycle Analyst, it can actually, you run all of the power through the Cycle Analyst. So the Cycle Analyst, it can throttle the power itself, right? So like if you have a temperature sensor hooked up to the Cycle Analyst, that gives the Cycle Analyst the ability to do the thermal rollback. So when your motor temperature is getting too hot, the Cycle Analyst can actually throttle the power based on that motor temperature. You can also hook a wheel speed sensor up to the Cycle Analyst, right? So one problem with using the mid-drive motor on the VESC controller is that the way that VESC calculates the speed is just based on the motor RPM. So that works great for like hub motors that are tied to the rotation of the wheel, right? Like a direct drive hub motor, you would have your speed showing up correctly in the VESC app, right? But if you have a geared hub motor that can freewheel when you're coasting, or if you have a mid-drive motor where the motor can stop spinning, but the bike can still be moving. In those situations, then your speed is only going to show up correctly in the VESC app when you're giving the motor power and the motor is actually spinning and moving the bike. But then as you're coasting, if you have a mid-drive in VESC, currently, like if you're coasting, you're not going to see the speed, right? Because the motor is not directly tied to the rotation of the wheel. So like you can't, if you're using a mid-drive, like it's just, you got to do something else, right? So that's where the Cycle Analyst comes in, is you can add a wheel speed sensor to the bike. You put a magnet on the wheel, like on the spokes of your bike. And then even though the motor has stopped spinning, you've got that magnet on the wheel that's still spinning as the bike is rolling. So that wheel speed sensor allows you to track your speed even when the motor isn't going, right? So that's an advantage of being able to use a wheel speed sensor, as it's good for like a mid-drive or a geared hub motor, where sometimes the motor can stop but the wheels can still be spinning. So that's one feature of the Cycle Analyst that I'm taking advantage of, is that wheel speed sensor, so that I've got my speedo readout even when I let off the throttle. I'm not using the features of the Cycle Analyst that remap the throttle at all right now. I'm remapping the voltage of the throttle, but I'm not using the Cycle Analyst to ramp the power of the throttle at all. I'm using the throttle ramping that's within VESC still. So basically, like in a nutshell, the Cycle Analyst, it is a passive display, but your throttle goes through it, right? And then so your throttle goes to the Cycle Analyst, and then there's some wiring between the Cycle Analyst and my controller, right? So the throttle input goes to the Cycle Analyst, and then the Cycle Analyst sends the throttle output to the flip ski that makes the flip ski go, right? And from the flip ski's point of view, it just looks like a throttle telling the flip ski to go, but it's actually the Cycle Analyst sending the throttle output signal to the flip ski, right? And I don't know if I have the temperature cutoff set up on my Cycle Analyst right now. I would have to check. I think the speedo might be slightly off. My wheel diameter might need a slight tweak, but it should be close enough. Within a couple mile an hour. Nice day at the beach. Perfect day. I don't know if there's like blind people driving or what's going on. There's some old-fashioned car up here. That's crazy. all the starlings doing back there? There's a swarm of them. I saw Salty Roadie Dickhead back there when I was talking about Cycle Analyst. Got some looks. We got some looks from the cyclists back there. Well, what are we at here? So the Cycle Analyst says we've used 5.2 amp hours. Yeah, it's crazy how it was so flooded for like the whole summer, and then all of a sudden it just all dumped out and drained out. I'm glad I was able to get the BBSHD settings sorted out again. It feels pretty good, especially after I changed that observer type to MX Lemming. I haven't noticed any like jerkiness. Cycle Analyst says the BBSHD is at 47. Let's do the ankle check. Seems about right. Feels pretty hot, but I can keep my foot on it without having to take it off. Oh, there's a large bug that just hit me. So, I wonder if this GoPro's still going. Wow. Alright, here we go. River Road. Go this way. We've got an e-biker going up the big old hill over here. That's the hill to get some pedaling in on. Ooh, it's cold back here. We gotta get back on the sun buggies. There we go. There's my sun. So everything seems like it's working as expected here. They looked like they were on like a motorcycle adventure back there. We've got a slow meandering car in front of us. And there's a snake smushed in the road. Speed limit's 35 and we're going 18. Ooh, it's nice and warm out here. Motor's at 50C. A lot of people out on bikes today. Bikes and motorcycles and everything. Motorcycles everywhere today. Everybody's got to get out before it turns into fall. Gotta watch out for these big walnuts or whatever those things are back there. Hit one of those, you can wipe out, buddy. GoPro, are you going? That is the question. Feels nice and cool right there. What a day, puppies. I need a freedom fry, is what I need. Cycle Analyst says the motor temp went up to 60. And it's kind of tapered off. Something smells good. So I am certain that the GoPro Hero 11 is either overheated by now or it will very soon. What does it say here? 7% battery.
Alright guys, we're starting up the GoPros again. I changed my speedometer. I increased the wheel size. Increase the wheel size. Uh-oh, this battery is going dead. Okay. So speedometer, it says 29 inches now. So I think my speedometer, it was set to like 28.1 or something. So that was probably making the speedometer slightly slower than I was actually going. A couple miles an hour. Okay, so we got GoPro Hero 8 going again. We've set the Cycle Analyst speedometer to 29 inches. Okay? So let's go look at... Let's go look at my temp sensor settings in the Cycle Analyst. So the NTC is 3900. So it says threshold temp is 62, and then max temp is 65. That's what I have it set to right now. Let's see, what does it feel like with my ankle? Feels pretty hot. 1, 2, ouch. So whatever it is right now, it's still pretty hot on the outside. So I think I'll have it set so like when it starts to hit 60 on here, that's the threshold, and then the max will be 65. So after it gets to 60C, it's going to start applying that rollback based on the temperature. And if it gets hotter than 65, it's just going to cut off. That says it's 48 right now. And I have my throttle in on pass through, so it's not changing that at all. Alright, I'm hungered. I need to go towards the nearest McDonald's. This test was successful. Oh. It's a good thing I didn't go all the way to Stillwater because I never would have survived. It's pretty sticky out today. When I would go on those big long rides in the summer, I would usually have to bring like 4 bottles of water. It was quite heavy. It's feeling smooth, boys. It feels pretty good. Suppose I should fasten my helmet straps. There we go. GoPro. We're by the beach bar. It's Sunday. It looks like people are there already. Nice day out. Everybody's out mowing their lawns, getting some sun, enjoying the day.
Everybody's at the beach today. Today is the day to be here. I wonder if the GoPro captured all of that. Nice. Still got 19%. There's St. Francis of Assisi. Oh, man, that chain tensioner is something else. Like, it just randomly drops the chain sometimes. Over, like, the most little innocent bumps. We gotta fix that, bubbies. GoPro, you still going? We're still going. Oh, there's a feather on the ground. That's why it... Oh, oh my god, are you kidding me? This thing is coming loose quite often here. On what the speedometer says and then what the Cycle Analyst says. I'll just try to hold like a steady speed because my GPS kind of sucks. So it seems pretty accurate. 18, 19, alright. Seems about right. get this going again. What a day. That sun feels good. I think we might charge up, get a freedom fry, charge up a little bit, get some beverages, go again later. It feels really hot on the bridge, wow. The BBSHD warmed up a little bit there, going down the bridge.
Alright guys, I'm back. Alright guys, I'm back in the garage. Let's just take a quick peek. So, Cycle Analyst, it says we're at 72 volts. It says we went 31.8 miles. 47C motor temp. It says we use 13.47 amp hours. Alright, so let's go take a look. So the flip ski set in VESC, it says the battery voltage is 70.2 instead of 72. So it's kind of interesting. Not sure why that is. But I've noticed that the battery voltage that shows up in Flipski, it was all in the VESC, it was always 2 volts lower than the battery actually was. I don't know why that is. So let's go look. How much does it say we drained? The draw. So it says amp hour drawn 14.29 amp hours. So it says 13.47 over here. So I wonder. So I mean, it's almost tracking 1 more amp hour on in VESC than it is on the Cycle Analyst. So it says we used 1029, about 1030 watt hours on here, and it says we used 1058 watt hours in VESC. Interesting. Interesting. Alright, well that was fun. Thanks for watching.